Welcome to Exiled Rising. I am Anna Mile, somatic experiencing therapist for PTSD and trauma recovery. This is the second part called Humility, God, and the Freedom from Ego. Please check the first part of episode called Humility for High Performance, Succeeding Without Burnout, where I talk about what is humility, what humility is not, and what's the impact of not having a humility and being able to develop the place of humility in us to regulate the nervous system so we don't burn out and we can have a peaceful life. So today, we will focus on humility as surrender, solace in God, detachment, ego versus alignment, and quiet authority. There is a deeper layer to humility, one that goes beyond psychology and into something spiritual. Because at its core, humility is not just about how you see yourself. It is about how you place yourself in relation to something greater than you. And when you're in ego state, everything revolves around you. Your image, your correctness, your control, your outcome, your money, your performance. And your nervous system feels like it has to manage everything. How you are seen, how things unfold, how others respond to every step you're doing, how you're presenting yourself. And that creates enormous amount of pressure. We know the pressure what's coming up from social media. And humility shifts that. Humility says, I'm not the center of everything. And I don't need to be. And in that realization, there is a relief on complete nervous system. If you haven't, please go back and listen part 1 of Humility and What's Humility episode. And there is something above this when we find a solace in God through humility. When we bring God or a spirit or whatever you're relating to, it can be elements, depends of your religion and of your practice. Humility becomes a soft turning toward trust. Quality of trust. Instead of controlling, proving, forcing, you begin to say, I don't need to hold all of this alone. I can be guided. I can trust something beyond my immediate reaction. And that creates solace and peace. Because your system no longer feels like it must defend constantly, decide instantly, protect identity at all costs, be on top of the things, grind and hustle 24/7 for months and years until you get sick. Because in that moment you're held in something larger, and that softens the entire body. And humility naturally leads to detachment. So this is very important. No detachment, not detachment as coldness, as being a narcissist, no, but as a freedom from over attachment to outcomes. When you're not driven by ego, you don't need to win every moment. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to be seen only certain way by expectation of others or internal expectations. You don't need others to validate your position. And you can speak your truth, hold your boundary, and still release the outcome and stay humble and live your life inside of your own moral principles and values. And that is true detachment, being fully present in your humility, being humble, living by your moral principles and values. You know what is right, you know what is wrong. We are going back to the basics of the most simple, basic, and valuable living, where we know our core. And ego-driven responses are often defensive, self-focused, comparative, reactive. They come from a place of, I must protect how I'm seen. And humility interrupts that, because when you're humble, you don't need to center yourself in every moment. You don't need to dominate the narrative. You don't need to correct everything. So just notice how much relief, just when I'm saying this, brings to your body. Because when you're in a place of being humble, you can listen, you can pause, you can allow space for others. And that dissolves the narcissistic pool that exists in all humans to some degree. And the inner shift is subtle, but very powerful. From how do I come across? Am I right? How do I protect myself here? How do I defend my goals, my plans? To what is true here? What is needed here? How can I stay aligned regardless of outcome? How can I stay aligned with my goals and with God at the same time? How can I stay humble and work on my plans? And that shift alone changes your entire experience of life. If you want to learn how to do this on a practical level, I created something specifically for this. It is a structured framework where I guide you step by step how to remove the need to prove and how to regulate your nervous system in real time. You can find in the link below. And it's done for people who are high functioning, but they don't want to keep paying the internal cost. And also for people who are withdrawing and feeling they're self-abandoning. And yet they're on the edge of burnout. So to continue, many people fear that humility means losing power. But spiritually, humility is not loss. It is surrender of illusion, illusion of control, illusion of superiority, illusion that everything depends on you. And what replaces is steadiness, it's clarity, it's trust, it's inner peace. And when we develop humility, so this is the skill, humility is a skill. It's developed skill. And yes, you're losing this skill with the speed of light. And yet, it's teachable. It's a practice, full embodied practice. And in humility, you stop trying to hold the world together through force, and you allow yourself to be guided. supported, and aligned with something deeper and higher than you, something above you. You find a quiet kind of safety. Humility is a ritual. It can start with a prayer. In the part 3, you can listen prayer for humility. And safety doesn't come from being right, but from no longer needing to be, to defend. And that is where humility meets God. And that is also the place where the nervous system finally comes to rest. When everything around us is too heavy and urgent, in that space, we have ability to lean onto something above us, to surrender, and to be in that space every day. So also, how to go back to the God, how to go back to spiritual practices on a daily basis, how to pray, how to learn to be humble in overwhelming culture, in overwhelming hustle and grind culture, is something you can learn and you can practice and develop. How to do that? Please check the links below and sign up. The name of the program is called Humility for High Performers. Succeed without burnout. And you don't need to be a high performer to take this course. And today I want to close with a prayer for humility. Allow your body to move back if you're sitting on the chair and absorb what comes in. Returning to humility prayer. Divine Spirit, angels of light, beloved ancestors, gracious God. In this moment, where my body tightens and my mind begins to defend, I pause. I feel where I'm holding. I feel where I'm pushing. I feel where I'm trying to prove or protect or be seen a certain way. And I bring into you, Divine Spirit, angels of light, beloved ancestors, gracious God. Help me choose humility here, not to make myself smaller, but to return to my core values, to see myself clearly, without inflation, without greed, without rejection, to stand in my own values without needing to prove it. Soften what is rigid in me. Touch the places in my body that are bracing for impact. Release the pressure to perform, to outdo, to over-explain, to over-belong. Let my body come into ease. Divine Spirit, Angels of light, beloved ancestors, gracious God, remind me I don't need to be right to be safe. I don't need to control to be held. I don't need to defend to have my faith. Help me see the other person, not just through my reaction, but through understanding. Let me recognize that they too are human, that they too are protecting something, that they too are shaped by what I cannot see. Give me grace for them and grace for myself. Divine Spirit, angels of light, beloved ancestors, gracious God, guide me into quiet authority where I don't need to push or convince or prove my place, where I can stay anchored in who I am without force, knowing I will always belong to you. Divine Spirit, angels of light, beloved ancestors, gracious God, teach me to trust you more than my impulse to react, to trust that I don't have to carry every outcome alone. Teach me that I can respond in alignment and release the rest. Let humility wash over me like a soft returning, like a pause, like space opening inside. In this space, where I meet with you, I surrender to clarity. I surrender to steadiness. I surrender to respect. I surrender to humility for myself, for others, and I rest here, not in control, but in trust that I can lean on you as I learn to lean on myself in this moment. So let it be.